All right, guys. I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. I wanted to welcome everybody tonight. I know we have a small group. We have three of the five panelists. So if any of them come in while we're talking, just go ahead and turn your cameras on and join the discussion. Again, this is our alumni event. We've been doing this for several years, where we get to hear from some of our recent graduates about what college life is all about and see how they've been prepared for college from their experiences here at Wooten. And this again is to give everybody a bird's eye view of how things are going here at Wooten and how we're preparing students for that next level. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our panelists. I'll start asking some questions. If each one of the panelists wouldn't mind just introducing themselves and telling us what college or university that you're at. And for those like me, don't know where all of them are, just say what state it's in, and we'll go from there. I'll go ahead and start with Ethan.
All right, my name is Ethan, and I go to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio.
And Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I go to the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania.
I'm Ellie.
Yeah.
I go to I'm Ellie. I go to a very small liberal arts college called Haverford College, which is 20 minutes from Philly.
Great. Well, I guess the one of the first questions is that I always like to ask is to ask our graduates, how has your education here at Wooten or your experiences here at Wooten shaped you or helped you at college? So any of you guys can take it.
I think that a lot of the classes that we take here, and some of the teachers in particular, do a really good job of preparing you, at least to find what it is that you're interested in and then get better at pursuing it and things like that. I felt that, especially for some of the math classes and computer science classes that I took, that the teachers were really helpful in getting me to a point where I was like excited to do college level classes and learn more stuff about what it was that I was interested in.
Yeah, definitely agree with Ethan on that. I do think Wooten has a great sense of community that colleges, I don't know, I found to be very similar there. And of course, there is a wide range of classes you can take at Wooten, and again, you can figure out your interests that way. And college offers a wide range of classes. And Wooten, I always thought, really pushed me to do the best I could, education wise and just as a person. So it was a great transition to college.
Yeah, I think the same things are true that Ethan and Andrew just said. I think also, like, in terms of classes being able to prepare you specifically, it's very dependent on the school. Just for the people that I've been, like, my really close friends from Wooten, we all have very different experiences in terms of difficulty of college classes as that compares to the difficulty of Wooten classes. But you're never going to be, you're never going to walk into a classroom and feel like completely, out of your element coming from Wooten. I think even if sometimes it was a lot, there was always some element of preparation that we got from high school.
Yeah, I think all three of you alluded to like certain courses and whatnot. Are you in particular majors or at least thinking about a particular field? I know I just read I can't remember what the college Ms. Carr had sent me that the college students on the average change their majors 2.7 times throughout the 4 years of college. But even though knowing that, did you guys go into each one of your schools knowing or having a field. I think Ethan, you said something about computers or something like that.
Yeah.
Technology.
So I went into college knowing that I would want to major in computer engineering. And so in terms of the classes that I took at Wooten and the classes that I'm taking now at Case, I feel very prepared specifically for my math, physics, and computer science classes. All of those I feel like Wooten did a really good job of preparing me for.
I went into college undecided. Still am undecided. But I've always known I want to do something with the entertainment business. Um, prefer Preferably acting. And Wooten offers theater, TV studio kind of classes, and even morning announcements can prepare you for that. So, um, yeah, just like Ethan said, Wooten still offers classes that piqued an interest.
All right, so that's a shout out to Mr. Jacobs. Then I'll let him know that.
Let him know, yeah.
Ellie, how about you?
Yeah, yes. So I kind of went into college thinking I was going to do kind of a pre-law track, and then kind of as soon as I was like supposed to set up, my coach told me that I had to set up this meeting with the pre-law advisor, and then I realized, wait, I don't actually want to do any of this. And then I kind of had a whole watershed moment and realized that I don't actually want to do that. So I don't know what I'm doing, but definitely, especially at small schools, there are a lot of opportunities to figure that out. So,
And time, right?
yep.
Well, how about so far? How about the like study schedule, like preparation, note taking, class prep? All those types of things. How do you guys feel prepared for that? Now, you don't
Um,
have to always say positive. I'll be honest.
it's awful. No. Um, I mean, for me, I need to make a schedule. Just that helps me, keep things on track when things are due. And um, I think the biggest change is that within Wooten, you're going from period one, period two, period three, same day kind of schedule. College, you've got different classes on different days. So, um, and sometimes you might not have class at all if something happens. So it just, the schedule keeps me on track. So that's what I use. Um, but there's so many ways.
Yeah, I think that I do the same thing as what Andrew does, where I have like a calendar with all my assignments on it, just so I know when everything has to be turned in. But as far as like budgeting time and finding time to do work and all that stuff, um, I know for a lot of people it's harder in college because you have more independence and you're living by yourself. And like Andrew said, it's not as strictly set of a schedule. You sort of have to set your own. But I think as long as you can make yourself get things done, it doesn't really matter when you do it. I like to do it right away. I know a lot of people who like to do it like much closer to the deadline. But as long as you can sort of figure out how much time it's going to take you and then add a little bit to account for unexpected things or just to take the pressure off a little bit, then you'll be totally fine.
I used Google Calendar.
Yeah.
Relied on it very heavily this year because, yeah. So I was also like, I'm a student athlete too, so I had the extra element of like trying to plan around like a very intense practice and lift schedule as well as traveling. So that became very difficult. But again, I did the same thing basically in high school. So I figured everything out. Like Ethan said, just as long as you do it at some point, it's okay.
Now, maybe you guys can tell us a little bit about how you guys started. I know some schools they started in person. Some of them were online, or vice versa, or have had some parts that. Have you guys all been in person so far this year?
Yep.
Yeah, for me, it was the first 2 weeks were online, and then after that was in person. But the all the professors offered the virtual option. But that was just by pure luck of the professors I got, because some of my friends back at college, some professors didn't offer that option. So I think it varies.
Andrew, do you think that was all the professors at Pitt, or just the ones that you had
Just the ones I had were by pure luck,
offering
just
virtual?
doing offering the virtual. But I don't think all of the professors there did offer it.
I know that Ellie, you had mentioned something about sports. Maybe you guys could tell us a little bit about some of the extracurriculars that you guys have been a part of.
Yeah, so I play tennis for Haverford. I'm a varsity athlete. It takes up a ton of time, but I love it. And it also kinda having exercise and, like, very intense activity built into your day can be very helpful in terms of productivity because you definitely get that endorphin rush. You're able to do your work more efficiently, I think, and that was really fun. But in the off season, I did do some club soccer, which was really fun, and just did whatever was available and sounded good to me. So, yeah, lots of options. And I would say, like, if you're worried about that, just, like, kinda go do it, and somebody there will be nice to you, and you'll have a good time.
Yeah, that's that's what I did too. Like in the beginning of the year, I would just sort of go to anything that sounded interesting. Um, and so I ended up going to a lot of different extracurriculars for the first few weeks, and then I just sort of picked out the ones that I liked. Um, so, like the ones that I've continued, one of my favorites has been RHA, which stands for Residence Hall Association, and a lot of different schools have them, but at Case, it's like um, it sort of fills a similar role to senior planning, which makes sense because I did that in high school. But they put on lots of events for the students, and you also just focus on the quality of student life, and you can work with administrators to improve the conditions for students there.
Yeah, I there's going to be a student fair where you're going to get to see all the clubs. And I think one thing I definitely learned is I started signing up for all these clubs and realized, okay, I have classes also. So you have to figure out which clubs you definitely are definitely going to be the most important to you. So I'm in a sketch writing club. Um, I did something recently called Red Eye, which is just a 24-hour theater festival where you learn your part in a day and then you perform at night. Um, and there's shows happening now, and you know, definitely a lot of cool extracurriculars.
And I know a lot of people uh, have asked, how has COVID affected you guys? We you talked a little bit about some of your classes, but how about the extracurricular? How about things on campus? Those types of things. Because if I remember correctly, you guys last year were all online, and it's not a awesome senior year. So, how has that prepared you for this year?
I mean, in a weird way, Wooten prepared us for college in a sense of expecting to be virtual for part of it, because we were virtual all online last year. um it didn't feel weird to be online. So there's that. But I think it really depends on the school. But for Pittsburgh, you have to wear your mask inside all buildings, and all on campus buildings. So the COVID levels have really been low, and it hasn't been much of a thought. At this point, the mask is just another item of clothing that keeps your face warm. It's People aren't really even thinking about it in a way of, you know, keeping the virus away. So that is a positive. It takes your mind off of COVID, but it it really again depends on the school.
Yeah, the same is true at Case, and I think that you'll find that it's true for a lot of private schools, especially because they were requiring vaccines for all students entering, like starting in the fall. So their positivity rate has stayed low throughout the semester, and we haven't really had to think about it too much because there are just so few cases in terms of the overall student body.
Yeah, I had a pretty similar experience. In terms of just like not really having to worry about it. It was funny. I had to like worry about it more when I came home than I did while I was at school, even though I was kind of with a ton of people all the time. But yeah, we have similar rules. We wear masks um in all academic buildings. We don't have to wear them in dorms, which is nice. But there have been times because it's such a small school where I did end up being in class with someone who eventually tested positive, and it was very nice that we had the masks because I never got it and neither did anyone else in the class. So it is a little bit annoying, I guess, to have to wear one, but I think the benefits definitely outweigh the negatives.
I think that one of the things that and we'll talk a little bit about each school test optional, those types of things, but this is something that I think now students need to look at because I know my daughter who is at in one of the University of Maryland schools, it's mandated, and pretty much what Ethan had said too is at his school that everybody that was coming in had to have that vaccination, and not all schools are like that. My other daughter, I think I was telling Andrew earlier, she's at the University of Alabama, and there is no mandate whatsoever. They didn't even have a mask mandate until probably halfway through the semester. So again, that's something that parents and students are going to have to start looking at. I know we look at social life majors, all those things, but now that's something that's additional that that students are going to have to look at when entering into school. And that might get me into sort of the next thing is that how and it sort of ties into some of the first question I asked about how has Wooten prepared you for school. One of the things that parents have asked and students have asked, because we've been so heavy on these AP classes here at Wooten, one is if you guys can maybe talk about one, if you took an AP class and if it prepared you for that, but also a lot of people are concerned, do we get credit for it and in what ways? Because every school does it a little bit different.
Yeah, this is something that you would have to look at your, not just your specific school, but your specific major as well to see how your AP credits would be accepted there. But I definitely, even if I wasn't able to get credit, which I was, Case Western was pretty good about that, I would still recommend taking them because from what I've seen of the classes that like I've been able to get out of and the classes that I'm in right now, it was pretty helpful to have that background in Wooten coming in.
I added so for my school, you can't actually um place out of a class. You can get put into a more advanced level of that same class. So you don't it doesn't really work the same way it does at most schools, but um like Ethan said, I think taking the classes, even if I didn't necessarily use the tests, was very important. First of all, because they'll like a lot of especially like more rigorous schools want to see you taking AP classes. That's very helpful. And then also just the material prepares you probably a little bit more effectively than uh, um, some of the other ones.
I didn't take any APs when I was in high school, so I don't really know, but I think I turned out all right. So I hope so.
That's good. And
So
Andrew,
another
you're
thing, sorry, another thing that's nice about taking them is that and having that background is that your first semester is going to be pretty hectic for you, like academically and emotionally, just because college is a really big change. So if you're not having to worry so much about your classes because you've already done something similar in high school, it will be very helpful. So that's something to consider.
Can you guys talk about your sort of like a typical schedule? First of all, how many classes? Because I know some schools they won't let you take over 15 credits. Some for the first semester only allow 4 classes, which is 12 credits. So I know every school is a little bit different. It'd be interesting to hear that part, but then maybe just walk through just like maybe a typical schedule that you might have. I know you mentioned a little bit about the alternating days and maybe the times in which your first classes are and those types of things.
Yeah, well, making your schedule is really fun actually because there's so many classes to look at. And your academic advisor is there to help you. So if you're having trouble figuring out how to make your schedule, um, they're always there. So yeah, for me, I don't believe there was a limit on how many credits I could take, but the suggested was 15. So I ended up taking 5 classes last semester, and it was a perfect amount. And you know, whether you're a morning or night person, kind of thing, is I guess choosing your time is your preference. At least at my college, at least at Pitt, um, there's a lot of different times for the same class. So um, if you want to get your classes done earlier, you can probably plan around that. Or if you just want to spread them out throughout the day or the week, there's really a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, that's true. You do have some freedom when you're like choosing classes over the summer to decide what your daily schedule is going to look like. Um, I know at Case it was a little bit different because our student population is kind of in a weird middle ground with 6,500 undergraduates, where it's not really super small, but it's also definitely not a big school. And so some classes would have multiple sections and you would get to choose, and then other ones would just have the one, especially if you were like placing out of classes into ones offered to like sophomores or second semester freshmen. So I basically did not have a choice as to what my schedule would look like. I just sort of had to pick the classes that I like needed to take next. And then if the times worked out, great. But yeah, it'll depend on the school a lot.
Yeah, I had a very different experience where just be as a function of the size of the school, there's really at most 1 or 2 sections of one class. Um, and the way that you kind of go about choosing your schedule is also very different because we were the first year is considered the year where you literally just like do whatever you're interested in, and they really steer you away from trying to fulfill major requirements because they don't want you to pick a major already. So we were just told to like anything that sounds remotely interesting and fits into a schedule to where your classes don't overlap, like do that. And then people obviously have their own like personal stuff that they have to plan around. But yeah, it for me it was definitely a pain actually to like try and figure everything out because there just aren't that many options and I hate STEM. So I like refuse to take any like math classes. But yeah.
Well, and Ellie, I bet with playing a varsity sport, that put a little wrinkle into it because you've got practice at a scheduled time pretty much every day, right?
Yep, every single day in season and in like part of the off season. But one of the things that's so great about my school, and I think a lot of other like very kind of elite like D3 schools, like the NESCAC schools too, also do this. Is like there are no scheduled classes during like practices. So there's like this block of time where there are no classes, but you do still have to plan around it, especially in your season because you'll be traveling. But yeah.
Now, I know you guys talked a little bit about someone, I think Andrew, you said something about an academic advisor. Ethan, maybe you said counsel. I can't remember, but are you guys assigned a counselor? Like at Wooten, everybody knows they're assigned a counselor. They have that counselor for 4 years. Is this person assigned to you, or is it based upon maybe a field of study that you get into, or will you be passed off to somebody? I know every school does it a little bit different.
Yeah. I pretty sure it was just they assign you to someone. And I think if you end up not loving your advisor, there's very at Pitt there's easy ways to switch over. So um yeah, for me it was just random, and I love my advisor, so um it's really nice. But yeah, I don't know if it's different for Ethan and Ellie.
It is a little bit different because at Case you get a first year advisor who stays with you throughout your first year, and then you also have, or sorry, that's called a navigator. They stay with you throughout your first year, and then you get a first year advisor who stays with you as a freshman or until you declare your major. Because once you declare your major, you get an advisor from that department. So you have a navigator for your first year, you have an advisor for your first year, and then once you declare your major, you get a new advisor.
I have about the same thing as Ethan. I have like a dean who stays with you for 4 years, I think, and then I have a pre-major advisor who they generally assign based on what you say you're interested in, and then once you declare a major, you get a major advisor.
All right, I got a couple. I'm got a couple more questions, and then if anybody has some other questions, we'll open it up to some parents or to some students. We have a small group. They could either put it in the chat or let us know. Um, of course, some of the students had said we had a student that came in. She was from Salisbury, and she said the food was awesome at school, and she was talking about how COVID had affected um, um, the dining hall, and she said grab and go and stuff like. Maybe talk a little bit about that process, and she said something about dining dollars or something like that. And I don't know, every school does it differently, and maybe guy because students that's an important part, eating.
Yeah, I think that varies very, very widely from school to school. I know at Case the dining is quite bad and generally held in extremely low regard. Um, and what's interesting is that the people who provide us with our dining services also provide dining for a lot of other similarly sized schools, like Butler, for example. So if you are thinking about a school and you want to know more about their dining, see if you can find out if they're catered by a service called Bon Appetit. I do not recommend that catering company personally. But if the university is doing it themselves, then I think the best way you can find out about that kind of thing is to talk to people who are there because they're going to give you candid answers about it. I wouldn't rely too heavily on like things that you find on the school's website or in school sponsored like information events. I would try to talk to some people who actually go there and get like an honest response from them if you're really interested in finding out.
Yeah, something tells me I've got the same caterer as Ethan then, because our food is anything but bon appetit. It honestly, Chipotle's been my best friend because it's right next to the campus, so I've been going there. But obviously, uh, if you want to save your money, you can suffer through the dining hall food. But no, it isn't the worst thing in the world. Luckily, again, varies from school to school. There is a 24-hour market that is next to the dining area. So once the dining hall closed, there's a 24-hour area just to pick up something, and the food in there is actually pretty good. So there really are a lot of options, and um, the different like food plans vary. So um, I think I can go to the dining hall twice a day, and that's more than enough. And we have something called Panther Funds, which is just some extra money that you put on your card, which I can actually show you. This is your card, um, and it allows you to get food, do your laundry, get into your dorms, your buildings. So um, you know, varies.
And you can use that instead of dining, or
Yeah, there's
sort of like a
dining
credit.
dollars. Yeah, there's dining dollars and Panther Funds. Dining dollars is for food mainly, but you can choose to use Panther Funds. It's really your choice, but um, there is something called a meal swipe, which is just you get one free meal every day, depending on the plan. So um, it's nice, different options. So they do give you a lot of different choices.
Ellie, you have something similar to that?
No. Our food is horrible. It's really disgusting. But the one thing I will say is that you should not make your college decision based on the food available to you, because despite having probably worse food than like most high schools do, I love it there, and it won't detract too much from your experience as long as you can figure out very creative ways to get around it.
Yeah.
That's like sneaking in like peanut butter in a jar with you. Um, yeah, just like you'll find a way, even if it sucks.
Yeah.
And I have, and yeah,
Exactly. Like it doesn't detract from your experience that much, but if you're specifically curious about dining, then that's what I have to say about it. It is not good.
Yeah. I just know that some students had thought, they've heard a lot of things about food, and I know a lot of colleges and universities now have everything from Chick-fil-A to different things on campus, and like Andrew said, right off campus they have. And again, that also depends upon whether you're in the inner city or uh, it all depends upon where the location is.
Yeah.
Um,
There are always options. And if you look hard enough, then you're bound to find something that's really not too bad. But uh, yeah, you do have to look for it a little bit.
Ellie, and that's a good thing. I hope I wasn't saying that because the food is good or bad is going to make your determination. It's just something you got to work through, right?
no, yeah. I get it's very helpful to know what the food is like, because then if I like, I'm glad that someone told me when I was like recruited that the food sucks. Like, I'm glad we're having this conversation because you need to like prepare yourself
Yeah.
for it. Like, whether that's like for buying a lot of ramen or like just saving up some summer work money to go to Chipotle. Like, it's really good to know what it's gonna be like, but also like it's not the most important thing in the world, and you'll find a way.
Well, that might have been a good thing that Wooten was a closed campus because we made you deal with it, here at school, right? Somebody had asked, Karen had asked, maybe if you guys could tell us a little bit about what made you decide the actual colleges that you went to, and just give us a little idea.
Um, for me, it was actually kind of a surprise because I didn't think I was going to go to a city school. I always thought I was going to do something more in the suburbs. But then when I went to visit Pitt, the campus I fell in love with, the people were great. I met some staff and they were great. And what they offered, the different classes, majors, a lot of great opportunities. So now this was before I saw the dining hall. So, uh, but no, I wouldn't have changed anything. I really love University of Pittsburgh.
How is the commute like?
The commute to get around campus,
Mhm.
um, it's actually I was very surprised. It's a big school, but the campus itself is very, very um, contained. It's very easy to get from building to building. My dorm is in something called the Towers, and the Towers are just in the center of everything. So the dining hall is actually just, you go down to the lobby and you walk down a staircase, you're in the dining hall. Now that's obviously where I live, but classes, the most amount I would have to walk to get to a class, for me as of right now, is 5 minutes. But I would say the farthest you would have to walk is, there's a place called Sutherland, which is um, a dorm for freshmen. It's an honors college dorm, and they're up a hill. That's probably about a 15-minute walk. So it really isn't that bad. And if you want to go to downtown, there's a whole bus system that takes you from place to place. So commute is very, very easy.
Thank you.
How about Ethan and Ellie? How about your campuses? While you're talking about like size, like getting from one location to the other, or class to class.
Case Western has a very weird and inconvenient layout where it's sort of like a strand of buildings that's like laid out over 2.5, 3 miles of Cleveland. So I think from like the freshman dorms, which are on the northern side, and the sophomore dorms, which are on the southern side, it's about 2 miles. And then the quad, where like most of your classes are a little bit closer to the south. So for me, it's like 20-minute walk to class each morning, which is not good. But it's
Getting a little colder there now, right?
Oh yeah, it's very cold there. Yeah.
Mine is very small. So like from one end of the campus to the other, it's probably, if you walk like slowly, probably 15 minutes at max. I still manage to be late to everything, so I mostly like use a skateboard to get around, but very, very, very doable, very small.
Which university? I'm sorry.
I go to Haverford College.
Thank you.
I was going to say, so they allow skateboards. What about cars? Maybe some of you, you don't need it, and
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I need a car. There's just so many ways of transportation around in Pittsburgh. But we have scooters. I think that's a big thing at colleges, the electric scooters. So we have those, and then, you know, biking, skateboards. We've got I've seen some hoverboards. So really anything I think is being used that I've seen.
well, guys, those were the questions. If anybody else has any questions, I just want to give each one of our panelists just maybe some closing remarks about what they could sort of pass down to our juniors and seniors who might be looking today about their next steps in looking for a college and deciding on a college.
Sorry, what was the question?
Question would be is if maybe you guys, well, someone had asked why you chose the particular school that you guys chose. I think you guys had talked a little bit about that. But maybe if you just quickly go over that, and then after that, maybe if you guys could just leave with a sort of a comment or some best wishes or some good ideas for our juniors and seniors to start thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, again, the reason I chose the school I did is just everything, the environment I saw when I visited and what they offered at the school. And it really was just a great experience visiting it, and it lived up to what I thought it would be. So that's why I chose it. I would say The biggest thing I realized is not to put so much pressure on yourself instantly, because I walked into college thinking, okay, so I'm going to meet all these new people, which I did, and I'm just going to be friends with all of them and it's going to be great. And then a week passed and I'd met a bunch of nice people, but I didn't really have any friends yet. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be what the rest of my college experience is going to be like. I'm not going to have any friends. And then I realized, okay, I'm a week into my first year as a freshman. So it's just give yourself time. Everybody's in the same boat. Um, everybody's meeting new people, new experiences. So it's really just, settling in, and you're gonna end up loving it.
I mean, I
Ethan,
chose
any?
my.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Ellie.
sorry. I chose like my school has a very distinct culture and kind of personality that I thought I was very compatible with, and that ended up being true, and I love it and everything. So that's kind of why I chose it. Also, like the sports thing, but yeah, I would say just like I don't know, check your email. That would be my advice. Like make sure you're on top of that and you sign up for things on time, because if you don't, your life is going to be horrible. Like if you don't remember to register on time, if you don't like confirm your housing on time, it's going to be awful. So even if that's hard for you, like it is for me, just got to make sure you do it.
Um, yeah, as far as the first semester goes, just try like as hard as you can to stay on top of everything. And if you're not somebody who uses a schedule, like for example, I used to keep everything in a notebook where I would just sort of like list stuff and then cross out as it was done. But like Ellie, I use Google Calendar now, and it's very helpful. So just make sure that you're keeping track of everything that you have to do, and pay a lot of attention to that, because it's going to make everything else less stressful and give you a little bit more time to relax, I guess, because you're not really worrying about what you have and what you don't have and what needs to get done. You sort of know what you have, when it's happening, and then you can just use your time as you wish in between.
I have one actual follow up because Andrew said something that made me think how important, because I get requests for seniors and juniors all the time to go on these things called college visits. How many of you went and visited your school that you're at right now?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think that helped you in making your decision?
Like extremely, like a lot. Like I wouldn't have made the same decision if I didn't go and see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's
You go.
very helpful. This probably won't be as big of a problem in the coming spring, but for us, it was kind of hit or miss whether or not your college would offer in-person tours and like on-campus visits where you could just walk around and look at things. But I highly recommend that you do that.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't planning on going to a city school, so if I didn't visit it in person, I would definitely not be at Pitt right now. So, um, you know, unfortunately, like Ethan said, there were colleges that weren't offering it because of COVID, but something tells me more colleges are going to be offering it this year. So, um, I do think it's an important thing. But if you can't, then I know there's a bunch of virtual tours that you can go on, that were posted on the college websites. So definitely look towards those.
Well, I want to thank our panelists tonight. We said that we'd keep it to under an hour because I know you guys got a busy schedule now that you're home, and you got things to do, places to be, all that stuff. And I want to thank Ethan, Andrew, and Ellie for sort of giving us a bird's eye view of your experiences and how Wooten has prepared you. I think it's always great to hear it. I agree with what you guys said. You got to hear it and see it to get into it and to believe it. And that's why we have our alumni every year do this. So we really appreciate you guys giving us the time tonight. And we hope everybody has a happy holiday and safe holiday. So thank you, parents and students who have joined us tonight. And that's all we got. Thank you.